Hi, I'm Sarah Betcher. I'm an Alaskan ethnographic filmmaker and owner of Farthest North Films. For the last couple years, I've been working as the filmmaker for Sustainable Futures North, based primarily at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, a project that explores interactions among food, water, energy security, and community sustainability. I directed, filmed, and edited Tied to the Land, Voices from Northwest Alaska. This 6-part film series showcases how 10 Northwest Alaskan villages are seeking ways of adapting to rapid changes in climate, weather, and development. You will be immersed into the daily lives of active hunters, fishers, and gatherers by air, land, and sea. And I hope you enjoy watching Tied to the Land film series.
When they first say it's global warming, the permafrost is melting, I said, I won't believe you unless I see it with my own eyes. Now I know it's global warming. Our cold storage is melting. It can't hardly freeze anything now. Permafrost is melting.
You board around right now, you could see exposed permafrost, something you didn't see a long time ago. It was all covered with vegetation. Now the willows are falling into the river, the trees are falling into the river.
Just like you go to Google Earth or to Gina, you know, on the computer, and then you look at what the ground looked like from the past, and today you will even see more lakes and more puddles and less ground. That'll show you that things are changing.
You know, it's warming weather. The grasses are growing taller and taller, growing everywhere now. Places that we had no grass along the coast where there's nothing but gravel, all has grass now. So you have to cut it and burn it. Because when you have grass around, you have a lot of flies coming in to lay eggs. Or we put away our black meat.
When they first came here and built the cache and the old igloo and stuff, this was all tundra. You could look out and see caribou coming in. And lately, all these new trees showed up, young spruce on the tundra. Out back, there's still open tundra, but it's filling in too.
There's more grasses growing on sandbars that didn't used to have it. There's sandbars that have tons of little willows growing on them now. And I don't know what all that adds up to, but it's definitely a big change.
There's so many beavers start coming down every year. Then they start making dams on these sloughs and closing up the fishing areas where the people used to fish a long time ago.
This coast on here by Cape Krusenstern, so the land is disappearing at a very rapid rate. I think in about 10 years, many of the houses are not going to be there, or they're going to have to move them further back because prevailing winds now are taking away what the west winds used to deposit.
The issue has been here for a while, and that is the erosion and the changes to some of our communities, because we no longer have the formation of ice in the fall, and it's coming later, and that makes some of our communities vulnerable to fall storms, vulnerable to flooding, and pretty heavy erosion.
Late October, we usually get slushy ice that save our community from erosion, because the slushy ice is so heavy, it slows down the waves. For the past few years, there's nothing. That's why we have erosion in our community.
We have a camp 30 miles from here. There was a point that stuck out a good 150 feet or so, but now it's pretty much gone. My parents had a house right on the beach there, and 5 years ago the ice went up and destroyed it. I think that's a good sign of the rising sea levels. The water's getting higher, so it's eating more into the bottom layer, and then everything kind of falls over.
There are places down this coast that are eroding so much so that we can't even drive on the beach anymore. 5 years ago, we would drive on the tundra only a mile and a half. Now we have to drive on a tundra 3.5 miles because the beach is so eroded you can't go on the beach. Pronounced change, you know.
And you could tell right there along the banks where it's getting eaten away. It used to be a lot closer toward the grassy area over there when I was a lot younger.
The fish have definitely changed in the sense that they seem to be coming earlier and then they go weeks and weeks later into the end of the season. At least one of the years they've extended the state season into September, which is obvious change if you went back 30, 40 years. Certain years more algae, which, you know, green slime that clogs up your net, coincided with, oh, this strange blob, 15-mile blob off a barrow that turned out to be algae, and the news reminding us of, you know, global climate change.
What concerns me the most, we live off the ocean over in Kotzebue. Most of our food comes from out there. The salmon, the crab, all the different cods that we get out there, the halibut, all feed off one source, and that's the plankton and the krill that are out there. Everything feeds off them. Because of ocean acidification, it will prevent hardening of shellfish species out in the ocean. So that's the scary part of it all. We'll lose the animals and mammals that feed off different parts of that ocean.
I was appointed to the National Task Force on Climate Change Preparedness and Resilience. Out of 26, I was one of 2 Indigenous people who were asked to sit there amongst some governors and mayors. We have an administration who's not afraid to bring up the issue of climate change, whether it's droughts, floods, or fires.
Our elders knew when to go hunting, they knew when not to, they knew the ice conditions. It has not only become more unpredictable, but it's become very different at certain times of years. So that local traditional knowledge, it's an uncertainty now.
I lose my Honda one time, my brand new Honda tonight, because our ice is getting thin. You can't just go out, you gotta know where the solid ice is.
There wasn't much of a discussion on the Arctic in the 80s and early 90s. Suddenly, climate change became noticed, and science was paying attention and being able to get into the media that our ice was melting faster than what they had anticipated, that they'd built some models that it was going to melt this much by this time, and holy Toledo, it melted twice that in a condensed period of time.
The makeup of the ice has changed. You don't have the real large, good ice. It makes it harder to hunt successfully where that ice that you're going out to look for is thinner ice.
Yesterday, we were all outside trying to put away caribou that my sister got. We were having to work in the rain because the weather has warmed up. I like to hang it for a few days so it tenderizes a little. We have it hanging out right now in a tarp, but we can't keep it out as long as we'd like to just because it's not cooling off.
One thing that can happen with meat is it gets sour, and that happens when it's wet. And so if it's at this temperature near freezing and it's wet like this, it's not going to go sour. What I'm hoping for would be cool weather, and then if we got a day where it was the breeze or something, I could get a crust on it. When I was a kid, we would get our meat as late as possible and then hope that the temperature stayed chilly enough that our meat would keep. In the last 20 years, we've had more and more of these falls where it would get kind of chilly, but then get warm again.
Hanging fish with the eggs still in the fish. I've had to throw out maybe 50 salmon because they've molded. As we get warmer temperatures longer into the fall, it's actually starting to spoil the fish as opposed to aging it.
We usually go around the 15th of September for whitefish, because by the end of September, it should be freezing. I have a cold storage where we dig under the ground. Because it's too warm out, I had to buy a brand new freezer and put my gunny sacks in there, my fish. And it cost a little over $1,200 for this freezer.
We started to see notice of muskox coming into our area. And the migration of the caribou trails has changed really fast. Last fall, it was very hard to get caribou, and we didn't have much caribou meat this winter.
There wasn't any moose around our area. Early 40s, they start coming. Now there are so many around today. Our world is changing.
Maybe 10 years back, we were hitting 50, 60 below weather wintertime. It might do that nowadays for one day, that's it. It's climate change. What are we going to do if this continues?
Let the questions that are asked be researched. What is the forecast for climate change looking out 50 to 100 years down the line? And what are the potential models of how this could all happen?
Alaska Natives have always adapted to what's going on in the environment that they live in to be able to survive. A certain level of that is accepting being adaptable.
Living here is not easy. We are plagued with the challenge of adaptation. I'm optimistic about our future because we wouldn't be here if we didn't have the ability to adapt and to be resilient.